The fossil record is often treated like a tidy history book, filled with dinosaurs, trilobites, and other familiar creatures. But every so often, paleontology hands us something that looks less like an animal and more like a rejected alien design from a sci-fi movie. These fossils are so bizarre that decades of study have left scientists no closer to pinning them down. They represent nature's strangest experiments, creatures that feel more like surreal art projects than ordinary organisms. Part of the reason they stand out is that fossilization itself is rare. To become a fossil, an animal has to die in just the right conditions, avoid scavengers, get buried quickly, and then wait millions of years. Most of what we find comes from common or widespread animals, but occasionally a fossil shows up that breaks all the rules and leaves scientists scratching their heads. The Tully monster, Subnautica's cousin. One of the best examples is Tullimonstrum gregarium, the Tully monster. Discovered in Illinois in 1966, this little creature looked like something dreamed up by a stressed video game designer. It had a cigar-shaped body, triangular fins, eyes on stalks, and a long trunk ending in a claw-like mouth. At under 14 inches long, it wasn't exactly dangerous, but it certainly wasn't cute either. It lived in shallow, tropical seas 300 million years ago, probably hunting smaller animals in muddy water. What made the Tully monster so infamous is its refusal to be classified. Over the years, it has been labeled a worm, a mollusk, an arthropod, and even a vertebrate. Today, the only consensus is that it lived in water, which isn't much of a breakthrough for something shaped like an eel with googly eyes. Typhloesus, the alien goldfish. If the Tully monster is confusing, the so-called alien goldfish might be worse. Officially named Typhloesus, it was found in Montana in the 1970s. Small, spindle-shaped, with a tail, it lacked an anus or appendages and contained an iron-rich organ called the pharodiscus, something found in no other animal. At first, it was mistaken for a conodont, a jawless fish. Then researchers realized the teeth inside it belonged to something it had eaten. Back to square one. In 2022, a new theory suggested it might be a mollusk with a tongue-like radula used to snatch prey. If true, it essentially hunted with a projectile tongue. Creepy, yes. But since radulas evolved independently in other animals too, this link remains shaky. The alien goldfish is still one of paleontology's biggest enigmas. The alphabet animals, H and Y. In Illinois, the same deposits that produced the Tully monster also gave us two even stranger fossils, the H animal and the Y animal. Yes, they're literally called that because of their shapes. The H animal, Ediacaran, looked like the letter H with a bulbous sac in the middle. Some grew larger than others, suggesting they were colonial animals that kept expanding as they aged. Scientists think they might have fed on drifting particles, but that's about as far as the guesses go. The Y animal, Esomasia, was tamer in appearance, but even more confusing. It resembled a sea anemone, except it had bilateral symmetry, a complete gut, and even an anus. Its arms may not have been arms at all, and its mouth was just a slit between them. For now, it remains an unsolved puzzle. The Ediacaran enigmas, rugs, and flesh trees. Travel back to the Ediacaran period between 635 and 538 million years ago, and you'll find creatures that barely resemble anything alive today. One of the strangest was Nectocaris, which looked like a fleshy tree with calcified trunks, the earliest evidence of a skeleton. Its body was covered in tentacles and spines, dotted with openings shaped like moons, hexagons, and other odd forms. No one knows what those openings did, but the effect was decidedly unsettling. Then there's Dickinsonia, which resembled a living bath mat. It crawled slowly across the seafloor, leaving feeding trails behind. Belonging to the group Proarticulata, it was slightly asymmetrical and may have left no descendants at all. In other words, it was a moving rug that evolution eventually abandoned. The Francevillian biota, fossils or fancy rocks? For maximum weirdness, look back 2.1 billion years to Gabon, Africa. There, researchers found disc-shaped and tubular structures preserved in shale, collectively known as the Francevillian biota. The debate ever since has been whether these were living organisms or just geological oddities. If they were alive, they would be the earliest multicellular organisms ever discovered, predating the previous record by 400 million years. Some scientists argue they were colonies of early eukaryotes, while others say they were just mineral patterns. Recent studies suggest they were likely biological, since they contain zinc consistent with metabolism. If true, the Francevillian biota represent Earth's earliest experiments with complex life, or else the most misleading rocks ever. Nectocaris, the shrimp-squid hybrid. Finally, there's Nectocaris, a fossil that has been playing identity games since 1910. Initially described as shrimp-like, it was later reinterpreted as an early chordate. In 2010, more than 90 new specimens revealed a different picture: a squid-like body with 2 stalked eyes, 2 tentacles, and a funnel-like proboscis that may have turned inside out. Imagine a squid with only 2 arms and a reversible vacuum mouth. Some scientists argued it was the earliest cephalopod, predating known squid and octopus by 30 million years. But its anatomy contradicted everything we thought about cephalopod evolution. Today, Nectocaris and its close relative Nectolatus are placed in their own mysterious family, the Nectocarids. Translation: we still don't know. From letter-shaped creatures to living rugs and projectile-tongued goldfish, these fossils show how experimental evolution can be. Some designs were so unusual they left no descendants, others persisted for millions of years, and many remain completely unclassifiable. Yet despite all these monsters, humanity eventually emerged. We didn't outswim predators or grow tentacles. We survived by being clever. We built tools, avoided danger, and adapted faster than other animals. Over time, we became the true apex predator, not by evolving claws or spines, but by outthinking everything else. In fact, in a lineup of strange creatures, the weirdest of all might be us. We are the only species that digs up these fossils, argues about them, and then laughs at their odd shapes. The Tully monster may have baffled scientists, but it was humans who gave it a name and tried to make sense of it. The fossil record proves one thing: nature loves to get weird. And while monsters like the Tully monster or Typhloesus may have dominated their seas, the most unpredictable experiment in evolution turned out to be humanity itself.